everybody, welcome back to John's Briefs here at C2 Tactical in Scottsdale. Thank you, C2, for letting us use this space. Like always, we appreciate you. This is the place to shoot. Here with defense attorney, former judge pro tem, and expert witness as well, doing some of that work, former prosecutor, Arizona Ranger. Is there anything you don't do?
Probably most things I do badly, but I have done all those things, yeah. So.
The jack of all the trades, Tim Forshey. And we are here talking about, had her on the channel recently, it got a lot of discussion going out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and a protest and a counter protest that escalates and then goes to a shooting, and now a young man is facing an attempted murder charge with a hate crime enhancement. And a lot of people, this one is, I think, a Rorschach test.
Yep, waiting to see what's going to happen.
Show me what you see here.
Yeah.
You know, the attorney, the psychologist. Oh, tell me what you see in this ink blot. But I want to talk to the attorney about what he saw.
Firearms Legal Protection is who I trust to help me after a use of force incident. If you're a Firearms Legal Protection member, I will also be on your team as a consulting expert, and you can attend our monthly active self-protection training seminars for free. Check out all they offer to their members at the link below.
Tim, you got to watch the video.
I did.
Tell me what you saw there.
I saw a whole bunch of stupid people bouncing off of each other. How about that? As you said, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, we always talk about the Second Amendment, you know, Second Amendment. There's a whole bunch of other amendments. I think there's like 26 or 27 other ones out there. And they're all important, and they all ought to be important. And the First Amendment, your right to demonstrate, your right to peacefully assemble, your right to protest, very, very critically important issues in our society. So I have no problem with people demonstrating. I don't understand this sudden need to tear down all the Civil War statues, but that's my opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. Clearly, I'm not saying that slavery was a good thing. It was a horrific scar on our nation, and it's ridiculous. But reinventing history kind of makes me feel a little Stalin-esque sometimes. I'm not big on that. But be that as it may, we're not here to talk about the merits of the demonstration. The fact is, you're demonstrating, okay, and then some people come up to a counter demonstration. To me, generally speaking, if we didn't learn anything from Charlottesville, it's that is a recipe for disaster, right? You are throwing some highly combustible materials in a very small pot. So I don't know why. I understand when people demonstrate. The whole counter demonstration thing to me is a bit scarier because by definition, it's going to lead to a confrontation.
So as somebody who tries to live as a good, sane, sober, moral, prudent person, the counter demonstration feels to me like exercising your rights at someone rather than exercising them to exercise them.
I couldn't agree more. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that makes good sense.
And that's like the, folks who, okay, I'm going to open carry my rifle or whatever. And you go, okay, I mean, it's your right to carry. Here, we live in Arizona. It's a constitutional carry state, first constitutional carry state in the nation. Perfectly legal to sling a rifle here and go wherever you want. I think it's stupid.
Good idea. Go ahead and do it. Make sure you got a bunch of money in the bank because I'm going to need a couple mortgage payments while we're working on your case.
And, you can sling a gun, whatever. Just don't have it in your hands. Don't wave it around. Yeah. But again, when you go to sit down to eat at the restaurant, you're going to take that rifle off. Where's it going to go?
Or who did you just muzzle? Or who's it going to allege that you muzzled them when you did so? Yeah.
Stupid idea. But okay, you can do it. But I think it's a bad idea. Yep. Counter-protest feels like exercising your rights at someone.
I think that's great. It's a real good way to put it.
And so like, look, it's okay if I say, look, your rights, you have the right to protest, and I'm going to give you that right during this thing. I'm going to maybe form a protest another day on my side, and we can do that in our own way. That's like I exercise my right to worship how I want, and you exercise your right to worship how you want. I'm not going to stage a counter worship event.
Right, and show up at your house of worship and say that you don't have the right to be there.
Or say, I think you're wrong, and so I'm going to worship my way, standing right next to you, and see if we can get in a confrontation about it.
Yeah, I think it's purely designed to set up a confrontation. And that gets more publicity to our cause, and et cetera, et cetera. Of course, with what's going on right now with all the demonstrations on college campuses that are, it almost hurts to say this, pro-Hamas. I still can't get my brain around it, but the boundaries are being pushed and pushed and pushed, and it's scary where that's going.
I personally cannot imagine the phrase pro-Hamas.
I know. I just don't get it. And most of the people that are saying that wouldn't survive on the ground for 15 minutes in Palestine. So
I understand. Yeah. Listen, I'm pro-people. I'm pro. I feel like Israel's doing a bad job. Anyways, I don't want to get down on that. Pro-Hamas. Anyway. Exactly. My brain. Stop.
Right.
Okay. Back on track.
Sorry.
So. Shows up in his MAGA hat. Totally your right to wear a MAGA hat. Okay? You want to wear, fly your Trump flag high, rock on. Okay? I was just at the NRA meetings, and let me tell you, they did not leave any MAGA for anybody else. It was, they had taken it all. Great.
They scooped it all up.
They scooped it all up. All right, fine. But again, you show up, and in this case, it was like a statue of a conquistador from the 1600s who killed a bunch of natives. And these are, so Tim, I don't know that I said this on the video, these are my wife's people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so my wife is half Taos Indian and half Zuni Indian. So she's half Indian. Of that half is Taos and half is Zuni. Taos Indian people are Espanola, Taos Pueblo, Santa Fe. That's their place. So these are my wife's people.
Kit Carson married into that tribe, by the way. So a lot of people don't know.
I learned something
Kit
today.
Carson was big in
So anyhow, they're protesting that. That's their right. Okay, fine. He decides to show up instead, and I don't know how all of it went, but then he decides, okay, I'm going over to where this statue was, and they decide, no, our kids are playing there and playing hopscotch there. You're not welcome there. Stay away from that.
Which they don't have a right to do. They don't own that park. They can't tell people who can and can't go to what part of that park. So that exceeded their authority, if you will. That had nothing to do with demonstrating.
So this is wrong. Now, if he had instead said, that's wrong, and there are police nearby, officers, I want to go over there, and they're prohibiting me from going to a place that I want to go, then probably that officer goes, y'all get out of his way. Y'all get along
the officer
nice.
might say, really?
Yeah, he might say, really, dude?
But at some point, yeah, I mean, you have every right to be there.
Yeah.
And so who are they to keep you from doing that?
So, okay, fine. Then he decides instead to run around that little kind of pony wall to try to get around them. Right. Well, they catch him to it, and they put hands on him first. Yep. And that was wrong.
That was wrong. It wasn't, I don't think you could even remotely say that he was in fear for his life for what I saw, but it was wrong. They put their hands on him. That's assault.
That's assault.
Arguably, since there's, I think I saw,
multiple?
I think 2 people put their hands on him. So you could probably make a case for ag assault,
right.
Arguably. I mean, was he in fear of great bodily injury or harm from 2 people because of disparity of force? You could probably argue that. I think we both agree that changed as the story continues.
So then he jumps over the wall.
Yep.
Now here's the big thing. As he pulls the gun, adult words coming.
Yep, sorry.
Okay, so adult words, muffle your ear if you can't handle adult words, is that he draws the gun and says, fuck you, as he presses the trigger. That to me, he's going to hang for that.
Yeah.
That's trouble.
Yep.
Because now, he's like, well, you don't know what's going on the other side. He could be afraid for his life. It's just happened a second ago. Man, those words that got caught on camera, it's not, leave me alone.
It goes back to, it's an inflammatory phrase. And it's an inflammatory phrase that's used a lot more commonly now than when I was a kid.
Sure.
But it's still an
Oaths and
inflammatory
invectives,
phrase. You and I are both familiar. I won't mention the officer's name, but I think we've talked about it in here before. We had a shooting of a drunk party goer who had a pellet pistol in Mesa about 6 or 8 years ago. And I knew the county attorney who was on the charging bureau at the time, and they went back and forth whether they were going to charge this officer or not. And they ended up deciding to charge him because the dust cover on his AR-15 said, "You're fucked." And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That's what I'm told prompted them to go ahead and file charges. That word it's like, because don't forget who's on your jury. You're going to have a lot of retirees on your jury.
Yeah.
There are people that can't get out of jury duty because they don't have a job to blame it on, and you're going to have a disproportionate number of people on your jury who are in the older generation. And by golly, that's not a word that was thrown around in 1955 very often.
No.
So you got to be,
Well, and again, using it at people.
Right.
Fuck you,
Yep.
While he presses that gun out and takes a shot at the
It's
guy.
offensive, and we're talking about theoretically defensive gun use. Well, you're being offensive.
That's punishment, not protection.
That's right.
Right? Oh yeah, I'm going to punish you for what you just did to me. You took my hat. You did those things. And I know if I'm his defense attorney, I'm not going to law school. I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to be an attorney.
I'm still working on that. We're going to make you do it.
I have done enough cases as an expert witness. I literally said, the last case, I was just in a case a couple weeks ago in New Mexico. During a break, I looked at both attorneys who were just kind of hanging out talking to each other. I was like, look, you guys have convinced me beyond all measure that I do not want to be an attorney. This is your job all the time. This is hot garbage.
I always think that, and then I watch one of these videos where I see what the cops have to do.
Yeah, they go, I'm not doing that.
Law school wasn't a bad idea after all. I'm glad I didn't become a cop.
I'll just keep educating people on YouTube. This is a way better job.
Yeah.
Anyways, if somebody wants to buy ASP, if you've got about $50 million and you want to buy ASP from me, and then I can be independently wealthy and go to law school for fun.
Can I negotiate the contract for another $1 million?
Yeah, sure, you bet. Tim can negotiate the contract. Okay, so if somebody's got $50 million wants to buy ASP, then I'll sell you ASP and then be independently wealthy and retire, and then maybe go to law school for fun.
There we go.
Okay, all right, that'd be it. So contact me, john@activeselfprotection.com. But going back to this one, if I'm his defense attorney, his defense team, if they hire me to do an expert analysis of all of the facts, I've only seen the video, I haven't got any other discovery, okay? Am I going to make an argument that says, well, he was, could I make an argument? He's, had just been grabbed by multiple people. He's been stuffed up against the wall. Yeah, but boy, that phrase. And then he runs off, jumps in his car, and has to be chased down by the cops.
That hurts at least as much, yeah.
And usually 99 times out of 100, the person that calls 911 is seen as the victim person.
Victim one versus suspect one.
Yeah, victim versus suspect. So they called 911. And he didn't. So what does that tell the detectives?
I have another client that just hired me in a case. I won't go into a lot of specifics because it hasn't made its way to court yet, so it's not technically public record. But be that as it may, what happened was, I think he appropriately drew his firearm in the threat of lethal force, and then the situation cooled down. He holstered his gun, said namaste a couple times, and then finished his errands.
Oh, didn't call the cops?
And then went home and called the cops. Of course, the cops were already at his house by the time he went home and called the cops.
Hi, sir, how are you?
And this guy's an educated guy, smarter than me, a couple of advanced degrees, and just, didn't think it was that big a deal, and waited to call.
Didn't think it was that big a deal to call.
You sit right there and you wait for the cops, and if they tell you it's going to be 2 hours, then buy a book and sit there and read it on your phone. I mean, but yeah, that was the only mistake that I see he made, but that's a big one.
It's a big one, and that's going to make him look at him real hard.
That's right.
Because it's not going to be seen as a slip up or a mistake. It's going to be seen as evidence of a depraved mind that you were trying to stay away.
This was a road rage with no video, so it's he said. Well, one guy called the cops instantly, and the other guy waited 90 minutes or so before he got home to call the cops. And
remember, friends, if ever you have to pull a gun, call the cops. Immediately. You got to use any force on another person. Call the cops immediately. I don't care if it's, you're pushing some guy, get away from me or whatever because he got too aggressive. You OC a person.
Call the police.
Call the police, right? Call the police. Now, I'm not saying I've never OC'd a dog without calling police. I have, okay? Because, there's no owner around.
And the dog can't call 911.
The dog can't call 911 on me. And if I don't see an owner around,
what are you supposed to do?
So hi, non-emergency dispatch. I just OC sprayed a dog. Okay, we'll be there in 3 hours.
Yeah. They probably wouldn't even respond.
Tomorrow, we'll have an officer call you to give a report or whatever. All right, whatever. I'm not gonna mess with it. A person though, totally different story. Totally different story. So the thing to me on this one was that statement, F you, that's damning.
Yeah.
That's gonna. If I'm the prosecutor, I'm just playing that on loop.
Right. Yeah.
Is this a protective use of force?
And this is going to go to trial in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is extremely blue.
Yeah, very blue.
And that's just not. I mean, there's people who are going to find him guilty just because he had a MAGA hat. And again, we talk about how politics and current affairs affect the outcome of a case. This guy's got an uphill fight, I believe.
Well, and even with all that, let's just say, let's say in that bare seconds. Let's just say the jury, by some miracle, doesn't hear him say F you, okay? Or that's excluded.
I would certainly file a motion to eliminate on that. And if the judge is doing the judge's job, the judge might say, well, that's more inflammatory than it is, than it has to be.
And of course, the prosecutor's going to say, it's an excited utterance caught on camera, Your Honor. And, But, we didn't force him to say it. He said it of his own free will, and this is, tells me his mindset. Yep. But even if they get that, you're going, okay, I'm going to try to get, as a defender, this very small slice. Yeah. But I can tell you, I've just recently, if you're in the Asp Unlimited app, I've got the audio files inbound from the case that I just finished in New Mexico. And we made that argument very strongly. Is this use of deadly force right here in this second? Is it okay? And said to the jury, hey, divorce from previous actions, we don't care about those. Divorce from what happens afterwards. Because again, I'm just asking this very narrow question. I think we did pretty good work for him, but he's still going to do 7 years. And so the jury said, no, we're going to consider all that. And that's the jury's right.
And that's the thing. People say, well, they shouldn't be able to do that. That's the jury's right. It's up to the jury. They use their discretion, not yours, not mine.
Yep. They are the finder of fact.
That's right.
And I said in that case, so it's funny, the redirect and then, or at the end in recross. Mr. Gray, you're the expert. Okay, fine. But were you there that day? No. I was not there that day, just like you find people the jury weren't there that day.
Right,
We're all looking at evidence after the fact. Right, and are you the finder of fact? And I looked at them and I said, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you are the finder of fact.
Good answer.
You're the one that is tasked with that responsibility.
You guys want him as an expert witness, so.
And listen, I honor what you're doing. I honor that you bear that weight, that you hold this person's life in your hands. I don't. You do. And so I thank you for doing your job, and I'm grateful that you are. And quite frankly, I even said this, quite frankly, better you than me.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then he was like, all right, I'm done with you.
I don't know how many of our viewers have been on a jury, but I've never been seated on a jury. I've been to jury duty many times, and I've actually been seated for voir dire, but when they find out my background, I get excluded.
Like, lawyer, later.
But I will tell you this, as a judge, I tried probably over 100 bench trials, and I'm telling you, when the trial's over, and I have to go back in my office and review the file and make a decision whether I'm going to find somebody guilty and send them to jail, and I was only a misdemeanor judge, so I couldn't send anybody to jail for longer than 6 months. That's a weighty obligation on a person. And,
well, you send them to jail for 6 months, they're going to lose their job.
They'll lose their job, they might lose their marriage. I mean, it's very heady. And we're talking about murder cases. We're talking about life in prison, even possibly the death penalty. Somebody could get murdered in prison. I mean, this is heavy stuff, and the jury has to bear that. And it's a burden, yeah.
How many of these have we seen, ladies and gentlemen, that start with, and everybody here was being stupid?
Yeah.
And
it seemed like a good idea to go to the rally, the demonstration.
I really think this is going to be one of those cases where, like with Michael Draka out of Florida, where Marquez McLaughlin came and pushed him down really hard, and he drew a gun. McLaughlin kind of turns away from him, he shoots him, and because of his previous actions and all these other things, Draka gets convicted of manslaughter in Florida, 20 years. He's got sentenced to 20 years. I think this young man is going to get sentenced for a long time for what he did. And just like if he hadn't have shot him, if he'd have just pulled a gun on him, said, get away from me, used an OC spray, ran off.
How about run off? He looked to me to be
just run off.
Young and fit. I mean, we saw him run afterwards.
Run off, called cops. These guys just assaulted me.
The Nike defense, it works great.
Yeah, run fu. Run fu better than kung fu. Kung fu better than gun fu, right? And if he'd have done that, I think he'd have been justified in what he did. Yeah. And the other guys were wrong and would have been charged with assault.
Correct.
Because they overstepped their bounds. Okay, I want them charged with assault for assaulting me. They never should have done that. Correct.
Yep.
But I think he's going to do time. I think he's going to do big time. And they got him on this one too, and this particular guy, because the FBI had this guy on a list because of his avowed hatred for certain ethnic groups. And so they put the hate crime enhancement on there because these people who he was counter-protesting were among the groups that he had avowed hate for.
Well, I mean, you reap what you sow, dude.
Dude, so, again, you paid the band.
Yep.
So you get to dance to the tune. So, guys, please be smart.
Yep.
This is a dated pop culture reference. Remember from the movie for The Other Guys. Hey, guys, just do me a favor. Be smart, okay? Do you remember the Be Smart speech? Just be smart, okay? And I just can't tell you enough to do that. I don't want you to get hemmed up in this kind of stuff. So is protest a right? Yep. Is counter-protest a right? Yep. It's because you got the right to do something. Don't make it smart to do.
Counter-protest is you're splashing gasoline on everybody and people playing with matches. So, yeah, not the best place to be.
Yeah, let them have their space. Yep. Go ahead, do your protest. That's a protected right. I'll go do mine in my space at my time. It's just like, it's great. I love the fact that my Muslim friends worship on Friday. Go do your thing. My Jewish friends worship on Saturday. Go do your thing. I worship on Sunday as a Christian.
But it chews up a weekend,
it splits everything up, so everybody's working, you know what I mean?
Everybody at the same party at the same time.
Yeah, we make sure, hey, man, my Muslim friends can't work on Friday night, so cool, I'll cook dinner Friday night. My Jewish friends on Saturday, well, I'll cook dinner, y'all cook dinner on Sunday for me. Anyways, that's not how that works, but you get my point, right? Anyways, be smart, man. Let's listen to the attorney. This stuff will change your life.
Be smart, maybe even better, just don't be dumb. Some of us can't be smart, but we can all not be dumb.
Thanks for the knowledge, man.
You bet, always. Thank you for having me.